Hi there, listeners. His name is Aaron, and his favorite pie is rhubarb.
And his name is Tommy, and his favorite pie is cranberry apple.
And this is the episode 12 of the Super Pod Saga.
I'm sure there's got to be a pie like that out there. There has to be.
I not to get in this, but like, is rhubarb used for anything other than rhubarb pie?
I'm sure there's jams, but I mean, people eat it raw because they're crazy, but
Ugh,
yeah.
Anyways, if you're a first-time listener, this isn't a podcast about pie. It's a podcast where Aaron and I discuss every single video game topic that has ever and will ever exist.
That's right, we're the be-all, end-all of video game podcasts.
Yeah, when we're finally done with this, when we're in our 80s, you'll be able to go back and like search for any topic, and we'll have talked about it. That's the goal, and I think that's a good goal to have.
The alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end of video game podcasts.
Yes. This one's going to be a little different, though. Usually we have like specific genres or topics or whatever, but I just have an obsession, not an obsession, but like every once in a while I just think back to about how video games used to be, and I'm like, man, things were different, and kids today don't know what we had to go through to play video games, I guess. So this is the back in my day episode where we're going to be like, back in my day, blah blah blah. I think the first thing that made me realize that was I had a job at a bank, and I told everyone that I like video games, and one of them was like, "Oh yeah, I when I was growing up, my favorite console was the Nintendo DS." And I'm like, "That's what you grew up with?" Because everyone's born in 2000 now, which is crazy. But yeah, I was like, that was like me in college.
God, that thing came out in what? The original one came out in like 2009? No, 2010?
The DS in 2010? I thought we had
no.
High school at least.
That's the 3DS I'm thinking of, my bad.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
3DS
you
came
are.
out like 2011 or something.
Yep. But yeah, growing up with the DS, which, oh man, I just looked, yeah, it came out in 2004 or 2005, and so that means that people born in 2000 were 4 or 5 when the DS came out, and I was already a fully formed human.
It's so weird to think about.
So
I mean,
yeah.
The first console I ever actually I guess the first console I ever actually owned was the GameCube that I got for my birthday or whatever. But it's so weird to think about people like, oh yeah, the first console I ever had was the PS3.
The Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man. Just to like get it started off, I guess. Back in my day, if we wanted to play games with our friends, it had to be local split screen because there wasn't the internet back then.
That's true. That is true. Or if you're a PlayStation gamer, you had to have the multi-tap.
Yeah.
The extra...
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's right. You couldn't just. It's like normal to have 4+ controllers to plug into a thing, but back in the day, the PlayStation only had 2, so you had to buy the multi-tap to plug it in, and then you could plug 4 controllers in.
Which was so weird because I don't remember there being very many 4-player games on the PlayStation. Like I remember there being obviously fighting games, or most fighting games are 2 players.
True.
Racing games are usually like 2-player split screen. I cannot imagine a 4-player PlayStation game off the top of my head.
A Crash Team Racing and Crash Bash. Those were 4-player games that I played.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, we had to split the screen into 4 sections, and we didn't have widescreens back then. It was the square TVs, and I don't know, man. That's like hard to do. Even now, just even with the widescreen, I'm like, oh, I can barely see what's on my screen. I don't know how we did it back then.
I know, and there were some weird games that I don't know if it was back in like the N64 PlayStation era, but there were some games. I think it was like Destroy All Humans. You could choose to split the screen vertically instead of horizontally, which was extra weird.
Yeah.
They made it like even harder to see anything at all because your field of your range of like vision was just 4 pixels basically.
Yeah, playing Call of Duty 4, they they wanted to
Oh
include the
yeah.
map when it was split as well. So you didn't even get all of the half a screen. It was only like a section of the half a screen because they had to have the mini map as well.
Oh my God. And playing Mario Kart 64 with this screen divided up into fours. It was such a wild. It's so hard. I'm so accustomed to the Mario Kart 8 or other games really that give you the whole ass screen to see
Yeah.
anything perfect, like pixel perfect, and then you split up into four, and it's like, how the
Oh
hell
man,
did we do
or
that?
man, Twisted Metal,
Oh,
impossible. I played that with friends, and it's just blocky graphics, horrible explosions. You can't see anything too far
horrible.
away. But also like aside from that, we didn't have the opportunity to play games with friends online. Like I have a very
Mm.
distinct memory of owning NASCAR 99 on my PlayStation, and it had a two-player mode, but rural Iowa. So I
Mm.
would there was a cheat code that was called paintball mode where your cars could shoot paintballs in the front and it would spin out the cars in front of you. So I would do a
That's cool.
two-player race with that on, and I would just hold the gas and the paintball on for both cars, and would just like imagine that they were both racing, and I was like both people. That's
Oh,
that's how I had fun. I like any kid now can just grab a phone and play Fortnite with 100 people online.
that is, yeah, that's so wild to think about because even before those generations, like on the Super Nintendo and stuff like that, like multiplayer was just starting to become a thing. Because I know like Secret of Mana had a that was co-op all the way throughout the whole entire game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so weird to think that we came from just a mostly single player generation, skip a couple, mostly two player, and then now it's all one, like I guess a couple generations later, it's all online basically.
Yeah, yeah, everything, and like even games that you can play single player. Like I know Diablo. I think it has to have an always online connection, even though it's a totally single player game. I could be
I think
wrong, but there are games like that.
that's true. Oh, and God forbid you ever get a screen peeker on that local co-op too, or local multiplayer. Man, those screen peekers were the worst.
That's why I could never play GoldenEye because everyone else knew the maps and I didn't. So even though I could see other people's screens, it didn't help me any.
Oh, me and my little brother used to play Time Splitters Future Perfect, and there's just a billion different characters to choose from, a billion different guns. We would always go with all bricks, all double Uzis, and like just us two. It was, God, that was so fun. Even with the screen peek, and we both knew the game and the map and everything pretty well, so we just screen peek all the time, find each other, just assassinate the other, and what a
We
great time.
yeah, we had fun with Halo 3 turning gravity to as low as possible, doing an open map with only gravity hammers. So you could and having your speed really fast. So everyone would just be flying around the arenas and swinging hammers and going flying.
Holy
Oh,
shit!
so fun. That's good times.
Speaking of no gravity, uh, back in my day, games were just full to the brim with different cheat codes.
Yes. Yes.
Gosh, fuck. I mean, you don't see that. I don't think ever now. Well, maybe it's like few and far between. But back in the day, like they even made those little guides you could buy at Walmart and Target and such that had tons of different cheat codes for tons of different games. I remember Grand Theft Auto
Yep. That's the
having,
first one that came to mind.
oh hell yeah, with those weapon cheats. The flying car especially was really cool to get around, or the jetpack. And the I still have, I think it was weapon cheat two that I memorized. It was L1, L1, L2. No, yeah, I don't know. I used to have a bunch memorized.
Yeah, I have a it's in Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. It's the Konami code, but I didn't know that at the time, so I didn't memorize this as the Konami code. It was at the menu if you do up up down down left right square, it unlocks a demo for Spyro the Dragon
That's
for
cool.
the first level. But like just think about that. Those aren't made by the same developer. They're both Sony exclusives obviously, but imagine like going into Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, and putting in a code on the first level and it unlocks a demo for God of War.
Yeah, because nowadays demos are just you get them from a digital marketplace and whatnot.
Yeah,
That was,
yeah.
and then I forget which game it was. I think it was. it was either Glover or Rayman 2, I think. But whenever you tried to punch in a cheat code or move around on the pause menu, it would make like burp and fart sounds, and that was awesome. You'd just be punching in the infinite lives cheat and it'd be like burp burp burp.
Yeah, or every game back then had a big head mode. That was like it
Oh
wasn't a video
yeah,
game unless it had a big head mode. I don't know the last game that had one of those.
it's I'm trying really hard to rack my brain for any recent games that had cheat codes, but I don't think there were any. Like maybe a couple that have, I guess, like cheats to unlock all levels, but
See,
I think that's it.
and the thing with cheat codes is like they're not given to you in the game. Like I'm sure there
Mm.
are some indie games that are like we got cheat codes just like the old game days, but telling you that and providing them to you isn't the same. Like we had to seek them out in magazines or learning from
Mm-hmm.
friends or whatever, which is kind of something I'll talk about later. But like yeah, it was like just a magical thing having this game that you own and being like if you put this special set of buttons in, everything changes.
And I remember back in the day, the manuals that you got with games had that notes section in the back,
Yeah.
and any game that had cheat codes, I would fill that fucker up with so many, even if it was just like some dumb cheat code, like it'll turn the color palette pinkish or something dumb. I'd be like, I'm gonna get that. I want that.
Yeah, back in my day, I didn't have this on my list, but back in my day, we had game manuals.
Yeah.
I loved game manuals. That was the best part was driving to the store, getting your game, and then as your parents are driving you back, you just read that game manual and get excited for the game you're about to play.
I read the story, the
The
controls, the little,
characters,
yep, tips and hints that it gives you. You're like, I'm ready. I could beat this game right now.
and now there's no game manuals because one, there's everyone buys stuff online, but two, even if you do buy the case, there's no game manual inside.
Yeah, I know sometimes they make limited run games or like special versions of games like that do come with little manuals, but those are super hard to find.
I want to find the specifics so I don't say it wrong, but the newest God of War game, the special edition, God of War Ragnarok. Here we go. Here we go. It's a God of War Ragnarok Jotnar edition. Comes with a steelbook display case, no game disc included.
What the fuck? So it comes with the case.
Yes,
There's no disc.
no disc. You get the digital version of the game.
That's that's so stupid.
It's like the worst possible timeline.
Like I understand like they're probably saving a little bit of money, but from like a collector standpoint, or just like one that's cool steelbook case, I,
Yeah,
that's mind-boggling.
that's the thing is because it's for specifically collectors, and I can't imagine a collector that's like, yeah, I just want the case, I don't want the disc. Like,
Yeah,
no.
you want the whole set, motherfucker.
Oh man, back in my day, we couldn't download games. We had to go to the store to buy them, and I think again that's just another crazy thing. I even take that for granted. Like, I was like, man, I feel like playing Red Dead Redemption 2. Let me purchase it and download it, and I can play it right now. I the last time I went to a store to buy a game, man,
I think
long time.
I haven't actually bought a game in the store either. I mean, and nowadays also we don't even need to go to a store because you can just buy it off of eBay or Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll get it shipped to me if anything, because it's there. But we couldn't do that. You couldn't have a game shipped to you. You couldn't buy it, download it online. There was no downloading games. I had to. It was a trip that I made, and like we're in rural Iowa, so you could go to the local Walmart, but you're better off going to Sioux City or Sioux Falls to go to a GameStop because they have more stuff. And back then, GameStop was actually good. Like
Right.
you could actually sell your games to buy new games. It wasn't like a complete scam.
That's right, kids. Back in the day, GameStop also had this sweet section where they just had all sorts of cool video game snacks and like drinks and stuff. And oh man, I'll never forget that. That was so good. And then they stopped doing that around like 2006
Yeah,
or something.
GameStop used to be my favorite place to be. I would go to the mall just to go to GameStop. And
Same.
now,
Yep.
and now, if I went to the mall, I don't even think I'd go into the GameStop.
No, and like as a kid, it was, yeah, it was definitely, I guess back in the day, it was super cool. But nowadays, being an anxiety-ridden adult and having them constantly pester you about pre-ordering the next God of War or some fucking shit, it's like, no, I just want to buy these two games for $15, and I
Yes.
want to go. God damn
Yes.
it!
I
I'm
know
gonna go get a
exactly what
coffee
I
and I want
want.
to go.
Gosh, that I hate that every place that does that. I went to this is not video game related, but just it happened yesterday. I went to Cabela's to get some life jackets, and the
Nice.
person inside handed me a thing, and they're like, "If you apply for a credit card, you get $50 off." And I'm like, "Okay."
Oh,
And she's like, "Do you think you're gonna do it?" And I'm like, "I don't know." As I'm walking away, and
God.
then at the register, they're like, "Are you a rewards member?" And I'm like, "No, this is my first time in a Cabela's." And she's like, "Oh, well, if you become a rewards member, you can make more trips." I'm like, "I gave you a sign that I'm not going to be a rewards member. Please, just."
I literally just want these life jackets so I
Yes.
don't drown.
My wife can't swim.
I
Oh,
think I the only like I guess this is kind of getting off topic, but I'm still going to talk about it anyway because it's our podcast. God damn it. Um, I have a rewards card at the in Iowa. There's this chain of gas stations called Casey's.
oh, I've got
I
it
have
too.
yeah, I mean go get gas
Yeah.
all the time. Might as well. But literally everywhere you go nowadays, they're like, "Hey, do you want to sign up for like Olive Garden specialty rewards?" I'm like, no, I just want to get this one spaghetti that's by the way not as good as Leo's spaghetti, but I just want to get this spaghetti
I'm
and
here
I
for
want to
my
go home.
once monthly Olive Garden trip. I just want to have a good time. Please leave me
I
alone.
want to get I want to get the unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks and skedaddle.
Thank you. But yeah, I just video game trips, like making a trip to go buy a game. Like if I went to the local Walmart and they didn't have what I wanted, I would have to make the hard choice. Like, do I just leave without buying a game, or do I find like a second tier game that I might not like? Like it's not just everything at your fingertips. You had to make some hard decisions.
Oh man, and with I mean, I'm kind of I used to collect games a lot, but it's going oh. So I've been trying to get physical copies of most games that I buy, but I know two in particular, the Animal Crossing New Horizons and Smash Ultimate. Those two sold out so quickly that when I tried to get the I guess buy copies and have them on the day of release, they were sold out. So they got delayed by like a month for delivery, and I was like, no, 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 I'll just buy the digital. God damn it.
Yeah,
Um,
we actually had a reason to pre-order games back then because you could make sure that you get because stores ran out of copies if it was something like Grand Theft
exactly.
Auto or what's another
Like
big game that used to come out?
Skyrim.
Skyrim, yeah.
And then sometimes they had cool pre-order bonuses, whether it be exclusive DLC. Like I remember there was an exclusive
Yeah,
multiplayer skin for Gears of War 3 if you
Walmart
pre-ordered it.
exclusives,
Yeah, Walmart
GameStop
exclusives.
exclusives, Target
Yeah.
exclusives. That's right. Um,
Um, what do you think? What do you think was the first game that you bought digitally?
I it was on the Nintendo Wii. It was when WiiWare first came out because I was like, you can download games. What the heck? And I don't remember what the very first one was, but I remember World of Goo being a game that I downloaded, and I remember showing to friends and being like, "Look, I don't need the disc. I can just play the video game."
Oh
And
yeah,
then
I think we talked about that. That
yeah,
sounds right.
yeah,
I think the first digital game I ever bought was on the 360 for sure, and it was Burnout Revenge. I'm pretty sure because I remember I had a whole bunch of like Microsoft rewards credits, and I wanted to buy a game, but I didn't want to go to the lame stop. And oh my gosh, I remember seeing the little marketplace for games on on the 360 dashboard. And I was like, oh my god, what? Like, I didn't know you could do this. And then sure enough, yeah, you can buy a whole ass game right there on your
that's
console.
that's another thing though is the Microsoft points, the Nintendo points. You couldn't just purchase games with money on the digital storefronts. You had to exchange your money for Nintendo money for
And
Nintendo points or Microsoft points and then buy them.
that's never made sense. Same with like with microtransactions for different games like Smite. You can't just I mean you spend your money, but you buy like an in-game currency called gems. But like let me just put like $20 into the game and then just or no, I guess maybe that'd be too hard for them to do. You can just get a $2 skin.
Well,
I
yeah,
take that back.
That's why they do it, is because they price things differently than the dollar amounts. You'll either have
Yeah,
leftover money or leftover currency. So you'll want to buy more to make it an even thing because our human brains are dumb like that.
that's right. Whenever I see anything for like $1.99, I always assume bar. So $2, $2.02.
the most
I don't think.
One of the most frustrating things with Nintendo back in the day was how, like, with PlayStation, the memory cards were like 256 megabytes or 25 megabytes or whatever, and Nintendo was like, you got 64 blocks to use.
Oh, I remember that now. You're bringing up some pretty wicked memories. Wicked in the bad way.
Yeah. Or
I think it was. Oh, which game was it that came with a memory? I think it was Animal Crossing that came with a memory card in the case
really?
because it was just huge. Yeah, I forget how big it was, but yeah, it came with its own memory card in the case because the game was just so goddamn huge. I wonder how big it was. I don't know.
I'm gonna look up the PlayStation 2 memory cards. That's the one I always remember, is the PlayStation 2 memory cards. Did the Xbox have memory cards?
No, it had internal. It had like damn near infinite internal memory.
Huh. The PlayStation 2 memory card was 8 megabytes.
God, games were save files were really that small back then, huh?
8 megabytes, and now the Series X and PlayStation 5 are 1 terabyte, which is what? Oh man, let me do a thing. Terabyte.
That's a lot of megabytes.
Yeah, 2 megabytes, and I love that it's mega, and it's like the smallest thing. 1 terabyte is 1 million megabytes.
That's a lot of PlayStation 2 games.
That's a lot of PlayStation 2
or save files.
Save memory cards. And I know that you can still get your saves corrupted today, but like back then, having your memory card corrupted was like terrifying. That happened with one of my baseball games where I tried loading it up and it was like memory card corrupted, file being deleted, and I'm like, what's happening? And you hit the button and it deletes your file because it's corrupted and it's just gone.
That I think, yeah, I had that happen one time with, I'm pretty sure it was Pikmin, and I got so mad at that game. This kind of ties into why you never got to play Pikmin, because I got so mad that my save file got corrupted. I fucking sold that. I got so far into that game, and then my save file got corrupted, and I got so pissed off that I sold it, and that was when I got Custom Robo, maybe.
Oh.
But I'm sorry you never got to play Pikmin.
Oh, it's okay. Maybe someday I will. Maybe. I played Pikmin Go, or Pikmin Bloom, which isn't even close.
No. It's so weird that Pokemon Go is basically any other Pokemon game, but Pikmin Go or Pikmin Bloom, whatever, is not even remotely the same thing. By the way, was that yours?
Yeah. I accidentally talked about like 2 or 3 things, but I started it.
Okay, that's all good. Speaking of Alzheimer's, back in my day, we had sick-ass unlockable characters in most games.
Yeah, that's right.
Like one of my favorite ones to cite for that would be pretty much any Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game, or I shouldn't say that, any Tony Hawk game really had really sick unlockable characters. Like I forget exactly which games it was, but there was one that had Spider-Man, one that had
Darth
Shrek.
Maul.
Yeah, Darth Maul. I think it was American Wasteland or Underground that had Gene Simmons from Kiss. And then there was Iron Man. There was a bunch. There's Homer Simpson in one, I'm pretty sure, but that stuff was so cool.
I loved the Nintendo Wii Super Smash Brothers because I mean the internet was around then, but I wasn't reading about things. So like you'd be playing and randomly be like, a challenger has appeared, and it's like just a random person. You're like, what is going on? It's Mewtwo. Like,
oh shit,
that was just like the thing about unlockable characters, is like it was a complete and total surprise. And just all of the names that you're saying like in that game, it really led to a lot of the playground rumors of like, did you like, because you would say, oh man, they've got Spider-Man in the new Tony Hawk game, and everyone would be like, no, that's not true.
I remember in Smash Bros. Melee, when you unlock you can unlock a character either by playing an absolute shit ton of matches, or there were also extra like specific ways to unlock them. But I remember reading about the game in, I think it was a Nintendo Power magazine or something at Walmart once upon a time. Because my mom was trying on clothes, and I was just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna fuck off for like an hour and a half. Um, but what was it? To unlock Mewtwo, it was the most. To unlock Mewtwo in Smash Bros. Melee, you can either play just the most absurd number of matches, and like a running total of matches, or you could, what the hell was it? You start up a match, play against whoever, and just let the game sit for like 8 hours, I think,
Mm-hmm. I remember
and
something
then
like that.
yeah, and then after 8 hours, you just end the match, and then boom, a challenger approaches, and it's Mewtwo. But everybody else was remotely easy to unlock. Like I think Captain Falcon, you just play, story mode once, boom, Captain Falcon. But like Luigi had to beat the time trial or the target shooter, smash the target thing.
Yeah, it was always like really things that you couldn't figure. Like if you just played like all the modes, you get most people, but some of them were like
Yeah.
surprisingly hidden.
Mhm.
And back in my day, we didn't have guides on the internet to learn how to do things. We had to figure everything out on our own. It was impossible. I don't know how we did it.
That's so true. Looking back now, there were a lot of games. I like the most infamous game probably to have like just one of the worst dungeons ever to try to complete without a guide would be the Water Temple from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've
I've
never attempted it myself.
I've never played all the way through Ocarina of Time before. Please don't crucify me, internet. But I don't know how people ever got through that without a guide.
Yeah, or any Nintendo or Super Nintendo game. Those are like we. Oh my gosh, I might have to look it up. But it me and a friend last year played Jurassic Park on the Super Nintendo, and it was a part where you had like a countdown timer, and you had to escape from the thing before the time ran out, and it was like a maze, and like it was a side-scrolling game, so it was like a side left to right maze, and there were so many
Yeah,
paths. Some of them had poison, some had velociraptors. It was like impossible. Like we spent so much time going down every path and like none of it was working, and we eventually like googled it, and it was like if you don't have this weapon from 20 minutes earlier in the game, it's going to be impossible for you to make it through the maze. And you're like, how would anyone know that?
that's extra stupid.
But that's like
Or
what a lot of games were like that back then. That's not just like a small sample size. There were so many games that just like expected you to find random things hidden in a block somewhere.
that, or they expected you to draw your own map with graph paper
Yeah.
and shit. Like the original Metroid did not have an in-game map. You had to draw that shit out yourself or memorize it if you were super duper awesome. Same with like the original Fantasy Star. You had to memorize the map. It's bullshit. Like who played that game on their own without? I feel like that'd just be so much work. Like I just want to play the goddamn video game, not map out an entire D&D campaign, my guy.
The only positive to come with that was the rise of strategy guides. I
Yeah.
loved me some strategy guides. That was like the two places I went to at Walmart was the games and the magazine section.
Yep.
And now when I go to the every like throughout the years, it's just been sad finding fewer and fewer video game magazines in the magazine section, because like you see all these other
Mm.
genres that are there, like house building and K-pop stars and TV guide magazines.
Tattoos.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you're like, how is video games not something that can sustain a magazine?
It's weird because I mean I have my oldest son is 10, so he goes to the book fair a lot, and there's
Hmm.
surprisingly not as many like video game related books as there used to be. Because I remember back in the day, not just with like the book fair, but the book order,
Yeah.
like pamphlet sheets that you
Yep.
get. Like
Yep.
there used to be tons back in the day, and you got sweet little goodies for buying them. But nowadays, there's just not as many. There's maybe just a select few, but that's about it.
You unlocked a memory for me through one of those book fair things. I bought The Simpsons Hit and Run for PC. That might be the weirdest
That's
way I've
cool.
ever purchased a video game, now that I think about it, through the book fair.
I think I remember buying a lot of the Pokemon, the handbooks from the book fair all the
Yeah.
time,
Some of
and
them
they
had
would,
mistakes.
yeah, like I remember, what was it? I forgot which one it was, but to me anyway, they messed up some of the pronunciations because for Rattata, they I forget what the hell it was, but god damn it, it's Rattata. It's not Ratatata or Ratata, it's Rattata.
Someone
God
in our
damn it.
school, I don't remember who, they always said rat-a-tat. And I'm like, no, there's no T at the end. It's just ratata.
No.
Um, oh, Simpsons Hit and Run on the PC was 4 discs to install it. That was a thing
What
back in the
the
day. You only needed
what
one
the
disc to
fuck?
run it, but to install it, it took multiple discs. And Simpsons Hit and Run, I remember being 4 discs. So it would like take an hour, and
Oh,
then it would be like, please switch to disc 2 to continue the installation.
that reminds me of all those. I think it was just on PlayStation back in the day, but all those games that had more than one disc because they were just so long. Like Final Fantasy VII
Yeah.
was like 3 discs. Legend of Dragoon was like 4 discs.
It was like an urban
And
legend almost, being like, it's so big that it takes 2 full discs. And you're like, wah!
why is this case so fat? Is there a snack that comes with it? And I don't I don't think Sega Saturn games had more than one. I've rarely ever come
Never,
into human contact
never.
with
Yeah, I was
Sega
gonna say I've
Saturn
never
before,
touched a
but
Sega Saturn.
yeah, I know for sure Nintendo 64 games only ever had just the one cartridge. But
Yeah, yeah. I remember when rumors for the Switch were coming out, and one of the bigger ones was it was going to be cartridge based, and I was like, "What are you talking about? Why would they ever go back to cartridges? That's insane, completely insane." And sure enough, it's totally
actually,
normal, totally normal.
speaking of cartridges, like it'd be cool if they kind of, in a way, brought back. I don't know. Have you ever seen a Super Famicom cartridge?
I have not.
They're so awesome. Like they're so colorful. Like basically, the Super Famicom was the Japanese Super Nintendo, and like in the U.S. for the most part, the Super Nintendo cartridges were all just plain ass gray and just bland and boring. But in Japan, they got some cartridges with really sweet colors. Like they'd be like yellow or baby blue, or they could be like pink or purple or something.
This Bomberman one I'm looking at is red.
That's yeah. Oh, and yeah, same with the original Famicom, which was just the NES in Japan. Those ones are super sweet. Again, all we ever got was plain ass gray, or if you played those goddamn Tengen branded ones, they'd be black like charcoal. I don't know. Those
That's
were
why
dumb.
that's why Pokemon Red, Blue, Gold, Silver was all super cool because the cartridges were the
Yeah.
colors that they were supposed to be. Um,
Oh, or crystal.
I have the stupidest complaint about the Nintendo Switch. So
Let's hear it.
every Nintendo handheld from the Game Boy up to the Switch, when you put the cartridge in the system, the label faces the back of the system. The Game
Oh,
Boy, the label faces the back for the Game Boy, the DS, the 3DS, all of that. The Nintendo Switch, the label faces the front, and it drives me insane. Every single time I put it in the wrong way.
have you ever tasted the cartridges before?
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as everyone made it out to be, but maybe I have a weird tongue.
No, yeah, it was. They say like they make them taste bad so kids won't eat them, but it's just bitter.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
like if you
not.
try to eat a cinnamon stick. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just unpleasant as hell.
Um, one last thing before Walmart, because I didn't have this written down, so I don't want to forget. The
Yeah.
best part about Walmart trips was getting to play the demo stations.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Because, oh man, in Walmart back in the day, they'd have 3 TVs set up, and they'd have controllers for the Xbox, the PlayStation, the GameCube, and so you could play demos of the games in Walmart, craning your head, your tiny child head, up to look up 20 feet.
Holy shit.
Or when the local Walmart had a rock band set up. Oh man.
Or I see photos of these a lot on like Facebook and Twitter and stuff, but there are just a bunch of other kiosks in random places like what McDonald's had some N64 ones back in the day.
Yeah, there wasn't any near us that I ever saw, but I've seen them on the internet.
Oh, and they used to have those all the time at Lame Stop. They would have the different ones for like
Yeah.
they had them for a while for like the Xbox One and PS4, but then they were like, nah, fam, we're not doing those no more.
I only one time was I ever at a hotel that had a built-in Nintendo 64 controller that you could
What the
buy.
hell?
You could buy it was you would purchase games, but you could only purchase them for a time. You would buy like an hour of Donkey Kong 64 or something.
What the what?
And it was only the controller. Yeah, it was wild.
Oh, that. Oh man, you unlocked another core memory for me too. Um, Whenever I went to spend the weekend at my dad's, we would go to this one. We go to this one rental store. I forget what it was, like electronics, etc. or something like that.
Hmm.
But you could rent not just like a game or movies. You could rent a whole ass video game console. And we rented the original Xbox with Fusion Frenzy and something else. I think it was Dead or Alive. And God, that was cool. But nope, can't do it nowadays.
How, out of my own curiosity, how much did that? Do you remember how much that cost, or did you not know because it was a dad purchase?
It was a dad purchase. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm sure it was less than $100. It had to have been.
There's no way that would exist these days, but yeah.
No. Oh God.
Yeah, I guess yeah, there did used to be video game rentals that you could rent in the store. Man, I never did that because I didn't have access to that, but I know that's a thing that existed.
Also, speaking of Walmart trips, back in my day, we had demo discs. You remember those?
Oh yes, yes.
I remember going to Walmart again in the same style when like my mom would just be buying clothes and I'd be like, "This blows, I'm out of here." I would go to the magazine section or whatever, and it'd be you could look at like DC magazine or the Nintendo Power and stuff like that. And yeah, they just have discs on the front, and it was so sweet. You could just be like, I could just take this off right now and be a little naughty little boy and go home and get a free demo disc.
Yeah, if the
But
magazine was wrapped in plastic, you knew it had something special inside.
hell yeah, those Nintendo Power ones that came with those sweet ass posters. Oh,
Oh
baby.
yes. I had a PlayStation demo disc that I think probably came with the PlayStation, or I got it from Pizza Hut. I know
Oh
Pizza
yeah,
Hut had a bunch of demo discs,
yeah.
and that was so fun. I played Tekken with the two characters that you could pick from, or the first
Yep.
level of Crash Bandicoot, or I would just watch the. It would have like a video with like off-brand Metallica music playing over different scenes from games. Just me imagining what it was like to play those games.
I think I obviously couldn't tell you what my first ever demo disc was, but I remember one very vividly for the original PlayStation, and it had I forget which Twisted Metal it was, but I was like, oh dude, this is fucking ice cream truck, sick. And then I was like, I need to get this, but they never had Twisted Metal at our Walmart.
It's not a demo disc, but my parents got the just by happenstance they got the GameCube that came with a special Ocarina of Time that had like
Yep.
the Master Dungeon or whatever,
Hmm.
which today is it's more rare than anything else because you could only get it then. And I never even touched it. I was like, I don't care about this, and I don't know whatever happened to it. It's gone now, but I I had that at some point.
That's God damn it. Oh God, I hate past Aaron so much. There was a game I used to have with the GameCube. It was Skies of Arcadia Legends, and oh my God, it's so expensive now. It's like it's gone up to like $200 now,
Hmm.
and and I mean it was originally on the Dreamcast, and I could buy that for $100, but I would rather just eat shit and just spend that money on groceries or literally anything else. God damn it,
I
it's
know
so
that
much.
I know that your regret is for collecting, but my regret is just because I want to play these games again, and I was an idiot and sold them all. Because GameStop was great back then. I brought in my Nintendo Wii and all the games, and was able to exchange it for a PlayStation 3 and a bunch of games and two controllers. Like
Nice.
you could do that back then, but I wish I didn't.
That's that's true. I remember back in I think it was around that before that generation, like the PS2, GameCube era, you could trade in like one or two games and have enough money for one game, almost two if you had like a really cheap one.
Yeah.
And I think I traded in a bunch of stuff for I think it was I traded in like the three Devil May Cry games and I got Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and I was like, dude, this is gonna be a hell of a weekend.
Oh, I forgot to mention, so I want to go back to it real quick about not
Okay.
having guides or whatever.
Yes.
This is like back in the 90s for Crash Bandicoot 3. So the internet existed, but it was super rare. One day my dad came home with this stack of papers of like, you kids are going to have to look it up, but it was like a 3D dot matrix printer. Like,
Ugh.
do you remember they had it at the bowling alley in town where they would print off scores and stuff on their giant sheets that they would have on the wall? I don't know if you remember that at all, but it was like,
I remember those
it
from
was,
the drugstore in
yeah.
Hayward.
Yeah, it was the entire guide for Crash Bandicoot 3 printed off. And it was
Holy
it's on an
shit.
endless sheet of paper. It's not a stack of paper. It's one really long sheet, like hundreds of feet long, folded up. And I texted him about this in anticipation of this episode because I was like, how did you even do that? And I'm going to scroll back to it.
I can hear the printer now just
Yeah, it took forever.
Yep.
My dad's not a man of many words, but I was like, how did you even find that? Was the internet even a thing back then? And he just said he found it on a dial-up message board. And I said, that's so cool. And he said, it sucked because they were long-distance calls and the speed was really slow.
Kids back in the day, when you made a phone call, if it was, I forget what the distance was, but if it was considered long distance, it costed extra to
Yeah.
make that call
We
per
couldn't-
minute. Per minute.
Probably. We couldn't use the internet because it used phone lines because there was no internet lines. So if someone was on the
And-
phone, you couldn't use the internet.
And you had to pay for minutes on cell phones.
Yep. Or texts. I had a track phone, so I had a certain number of
Mhm.
texts. Oh man, I had a thought. Where'd it go?
What
Where'd it
about
go?
Centipede?
No. Oh well, it's gone. Dang it, it's gone.
Damn.
We should let's do an ad break, and maybe I'll remember it after the ad break.
Okay, and it's mine, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I got a good one for you. Are you tired of boring, plain, unappealing shapes in your food during meals? You wish your family meals didn't need to be lame? Introducing Grub Shapes. Now all meals can have the sense of whimsy and wonder that you usually get with holiday treats or snacks. If you have plain circle burgers just boring and bland, how about an octopus-shaped burger instead? Plain square waffles with those dumb little dimples? Well, now with Grub Shapes, you can have waffles in the shape of Elon Musk's big head. Grub Shapes are made using special military-grade galvanized steel, painted repeatedly into fun shapes such as a jack-o'-lantern, Krillin from Dragon Ball Z, a sleepy sloth hanging from a tree branch, and more. You might be asking, why use Grub Shapes when you can just use a stencil or cookie cutter? Don't fucking worry about it. You'll never find a cookie cutter in the shape of the Lincoln Memorial. Only Grub Shapes has that. You'll never find that anywhere else. Don't even try to ask. Grub Shapes are available now for 6 easy payments of $39.99. That's right, for 6 easy peasy payments of $39.99, you'll get an assortment of 67 different Grub Shapes. Order now to get a special bonus offer. Breezy Shapes. It's like an ice cube tray. If an ice cube tray got a degree in engineering at MIT, you can freeze all of your favorite liquids into sweet shapes such as the Domino's Noid, a snowman, or even a pyramid. That's right, Grub Shapes. Order now. Now, I said.
I would actually use. That's probably the best ad we've ever had. Like that's that's the thing that I would actually use, not for that amount of money.
Oh man, that was also another back in my day thing with all those goddamn infomercials for what was it, those like copper pans that were literally just regular pans but with like a copper tone.
I saw one that was the magnetic bracelet, and to show that it worked, they had someone standing there, and the person like pulled on their arm, and they like, oh, I fell over, and then they put on the magnetic bracelet, and they pulled on their arm, and they're like, can't move me now.
My favorite ever commercial. Do you remember the head-on one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that would just come on, and like you'd be watching Adult Swim at like 1 a.m, and all of a sudden it just cut to head on, applied directly to the forehead, head on, and then it'd just be some lady rolling this stick of whatever the fuck onto her forehead, and
Along the lines of not being able to buy games, not having guides for games, etc. Back in my day, games games couldn't get patched. There was no post-release content. There was no DLC. You just bought a game and that's what it was. If something in a game was broken, it's broken forever. There was nothing. There was like super duper rare occasions where the company would be like, if you mail in your disc, we'll mail you in a fixed disc. But those were extremely rare in between. Like, games were just the way that they were.
That's true. I'm trying to think. There was one that I used to know of where they did like a reprint of it that fixed a certain bug, but I forget what the hell game it was. But yeah, hell yeah, if a game was jank, it was jank forever. Like, um, what was it? Big Rigs Over the Road Racing or whatever.
Yeah.
That one's just forever a pile of shit and piss.
If you hold reverse, there's no max on your speed, so you just keep accelerating forever.
Oh yeah, and then if you win the race, you're a winner.
Yeah, you're a winner. Um, but even like for RPGs and stuff, if they were not balanced properly, that's just the way it was. They're like you'll hear things about like we already talked about, but like the water temple, if they would have gotten the public's like nowadays, if the water temple came out and people were struggling with it, the company would change something in it and release a patch to make it easier or more understandable or whatever. But nope, the water temple's hard as shit forever.
Yeah, I think they fixed it on the Switch Online thing on the N64. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Did they fix that? Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I know for the 3DS remake, they definitely fixed it quite a bit and made it like eligible, like the slightest bit eligible. It's actually like doable. Um, but yeah, speaking of all of that, you remember the Game Shark and Action Replay?
Yes, I had a Game Shark for the PlayStation.
Yeah, those things were so cool. I remember with the Action Replay specifically, I had one for the Game Boy Advance, and being a kid with infinite amounts of free time, I would
Yeah.
just blow through a Pokemon game. And the Pokemon Emerald, I blew right through that, did everything, beat everything in the Battle Frontier after the post game nonsense. I was like, well, what the hell do I do this now? And then my buddy let me borrow his Action Replay, and I made like my dream team, like all level 99. It was like Sceptile, Typhlosion. At the time, Lantern was my favorite water type, but for future reference, Politoed is my favorite water type.
Lantern was pretty cool back in the day, though. Electric water type was like mind blowing.
Yeah, he's pretty badass. And I forget who else was there, but I would give him like the best moves, the coolest nicknames, the best held items. And then yeah, I would just go through the Elite Four and be like, ah ha ha ha, nothing can stand in my way, and I'd reenact like in my head that I was in the anime or whatever, because I was just a stupid kid.
Yeah, the Game Shark we had for PlayStation, obviously it had like things in it that pre-made for games that could rewrite the code to give you 99 lives or whatever. But that one also had like where if you were knowledgeable enough, you could input your own stuff, and I could never figure that out as a kid.
Oh,
I always
yeah.
broke things, but it's such a weird thing. Definitely doesn't
Remember,
exist now.
I know, that'd be so crazy if it did. I know there was another vivid memory I have of I think this one was the Game Shark actually, and it was for Final Fantasy X. I forget if it was like my first playthrough or my second or whatever. That doesn't matter. Um, I what did I do? I think I maxed out everybody's sphere grid, give them all the best weapons, because there was also a lot of really tedious bullshit in Final Fantasy X, like to get the Mage's sisters. Oh, Jesus Christ, that sucked. But no, I just gave myself every Aeon, every best weapon, maxed out sphere grid, beat the shit out of the final boss, and was like, all right,
You want to know what
that's
gave
Final
me
Fantasy X.
You want to know what gave me the biggest near panic attack as a kid? I don't know where I heard it from. I don't know how I possibly could have heard it from anywhere, but the duplication glitch in Pokemon Gold and Silver, where
Yeah.
you would give your Pokemon an item and you would switch it to a different box in the PC, and the required thing was to turn the Game Boy off when it was in the middle of saving, and it says do not power off the system. And I like doing that for the first time. My heart was like, am I about to lose everything in my life?
Am I about to risk it all
And I
for
did,
the nookie?
and it worked, and it worked. I had two
Yep.
Tyrannotars with two rare candies. You could make infinite rare
Ooh,
candies with that.
God, I can't think of any. Those were also really cool things back in the day. Just rumors, because nowadays you really can't have a rumor or a secret because everything is revealed on the internet, whether it
Yep.
be that wicked ass Easter egg from whichever Trials game it was, where they dig up keys in real life or whatever. But I remember back in the day, specifically the Luigi rumor for Super Mario 64, where like you were in that specific room at that fountain, you see the plaque, L is real or whatever the hell the plaque
Oh yeah.
says, and people were losing their minds over like, is Luigi actually like in Super Mario 64? And people would just talk about it all the time. And I mean, obviously now we know it's not real because people have debunked it or whatever. But
Yeah, I
those rumors were sweet.
for me it was the Mew under the truck
Oh yeah,
in Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow. I remember it was such a complex set of things. Like it was going to Cinnabar Island and traveling along the coast for a certain number of steps and doing all these other things. And I did it all, and nothing happened.
hmm
And I tried so many different variations because I was like, "This is on the internet. It has to be real."
I
I'm trying to
remember.
find. Oh no, you say yours first.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I remember the rumor about Sasquatch being in I think it was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That sounds right. Where
Yeah.
you could find him at like a certain point in the day, just out in the woods or something. Oh man, I can't think
Um.
of any more off the top of my head.
I in I can't find the tweet, but the biggest sign of like how the internet has changed finding secrets in games. Hideo Kojima tweeted about it's been 8 years since PT came out, and he explained that when he released it, he expected it would take 8 months for anyone to figure out how to get to the end of the game, quote unquote,
Mhm.
and people figured it out within 2 days.
He's pretty good about different Easter eggs and cool stuff in modern games. Because I know there was that whole thing with the nukes in
Oh my
Metal
gosh,
Gear Solid
yeah,
5.
yeah,
Um, you don't really see that in any other games because most other games, oh, I should say most like AAA games, because indie games are pretty good at hiding little secrets and goodies and stuff here and there. But most modern games is just like, here's the game, you did it, that's the game, that's it,
yeah.
nothing here.
Super Punch Out. We have to talk about Super Punch Out. Did you see the? This is like perfectly in line with everything we're talking about. The recently discovered thing in Super Punch Out.
It sounds familiar, but please go on.
They discovered last week. They discovered that there's a two-player mode in Super Punch Out that has
What
been
the
hidden
fuck?
for the last 28 years. No one's ever discovered this. Um, some guy figured out that when you plug in two controllers, like a player one controller and a player two controller, you hold two buttons on one controller and hit a button on another. It brings you to a new screen that no one's ever seen before where you can select which fighter you want to face in a one round bout. You can just practice against them. And if you hold two buttons on a controller and hit a button again, it lets the second player select from all the fighters, and you can do two players. And no one knew about that for the last 28 years, and it was just discovered last week that it's been in there. Like people went on to emulators of the game and tried
Holy
it, and it
hell.
totally works.
How do people? I've always wondered how people figure that shit out. Because there
Yeah.
was even that. Oh, what was it? It was another. I forget. There was. Yeah. I'll never for the life of me know how people figure that kind of stuff out.
Yeah, it's insane to me. Or even like I remember playing Halo 3 and a friend was like, "To get this skull, you have to jump through there's do you see all these seven rings in the area?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what about them?" And he's like, "You have to jump through them in a certain order. You have to jump through the third one, then the fifth one, then the second one, then the fifth one." And then it unlocks the skull, and I'm like, "How do people figure this out? How?" There's nothing that would give you any inclination because there's no like chime that goes when you jump through the rings. There's nothing being broadcast.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I remember there was. You remember back in the day with that one channel G4? Do you remember that
Oh
shit?
yeah, I loved G4. I lived for G4.
Oh, dude. And then they had that show Cheats that just gave you like hints and tips and uh, actual cheat codes if a game had them. But oh man, that was so cool. Back in my day, we had G4 people.
Yeah, the G4 is back, and it's just not doing the same thing for me. Maybe it's because I'm an adult, and I don't have like from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. to watch G4 every day. But yeah, it's not the same.
It's true.
They had a show that was like just video game trailers, and I would love watching that.
Oh yeah, was that Attack of the Show?
No, it was just half an hour of video game trailers. There was no hosts or anything. It would just play
Oh,
video game trailers for half an hour. I don't remember what that was called. But yeah, I loved Attack of the Show, loved X-Play. Back in my day, we had G4. It was wonderful. Their E3 coverage was the best cuz that was like the only time that you could see E3 like on the internet, the simple internet back then. There was articles and trailers and stuff, but being able to watch people walk through it and talk to people and just see it, that was so cool. I wanted to go to E3 so bad.
yeah, because back in those days they didn't have live streaming at
No,
all. It
no.
was, I mean, obviously, unless you were, on a television station or whatever. But yeah, those were sweet, sweet times.
The dudes at Giant Bomb talked about when they worked at GameSpot during those early E3 days, they had to have a video recorder with a VHS like recorder, and they would record the press conferences, and then someone would have to physically take that VHS to another person in a van to upload it to send it to like the main GameSpot branch to upload it to the internet because there wasn't live anything back then.
Oh my
There was
gosh.
no Wi-Fi or internet anything, and I can't imagine what G4 had to do to make all of that possible. Oh my gosh.
That sounds like a labor and a half. I remember what was it? Nope, I lost my thoughts. Sorry, we'll
Oh
cut that
man, it
out.
keeps happening to me too. No worries. We have a lot of video game memories, and some of them just come and go. I gotta.
Another
Yeah, no, you.
oh, okay. I remember another thing back in the day that you don't ever see now is home console ports of arcade games, and that
Yeah,
might be th- like Tekken, Soul Calibur, even F-Zero GX. That was an arcade game. Oh
I
my
did not
gosh!
know
Oh,
that.
and then the arcade cabinets that had spots where you could plug in like your memory card or like a USB stick, and you can get special sweet shit from the arcade cabinet and have it in your game, or like bring your home console save file to the arcade cabinet and just blast ass in that game.
Yeah, back in our day, arcades were actually relevant.
Oh yeah, that little arcade section of Walmart was actually an arcade section in Walmart. It wasn't
It
just
had
like
Guitar Hero,
it wasn't the old run down like
just
Fast
claw
and Furious
games.
cabinet that says no input, or like the little sticker vending machine bullshit
It's
thing.
so sad. Man, that's just another Walmart thing where I would see arcade and I would
Yep.
go over there and have fun. And now I see arcade and I know it's not an arcade. It's not.
They don't even have anything like that in Pizza Ranches
No.
or what few Pizza
I
Huts
used to remember
are
running
left.
into friends at the Pizza Ranch arcade.
Hell yeah, dude. Oh my gosh.
Uh, um,
Nowadays, yeah.
it was before our time, but I know that it was a thing where arcades were considered like the graphical powerhouses, and it wasn't until like the Super Nintendo that home consoles caught up with arcades, which is a weird thing to think about.
Oh yeah, I think there were quite a few when they started getting into 3D graphics and shit. Arcades were still like the bigger technical powerhouses, but
Yeah,
what was it, Virtua Fighter, I think, on the Saturn. That was like one of the first few I guess like 3D fighting games. And it was this is another thing back in the day, being so used to just like the pixely like 2D games going to these new 3D games. Oh my God. That
I
was these graphics are never going to get any better, but they literally just looked like if you just slopped cardboard boxes together on a man.
it's insane. I know one of going back to when I worked at the bank with all the young people, they sent a meme that was like graphics will never get better than this, and it was GoldenEye 007, and I'm like, I know you kids don't believe it, but that's actually what we thought. Seeing faces on the people, oh, ridiculous.
The faces in GoldenEye 007 were so stupid. It would just be like 3D models with faces superimposed on them, and
Grand Theft Auto characters
So
had
stupid.
Grand Theft Auto characters had fingers, and I was like, "What are you? How is that even technically possible?"
Oh my gosh, dude.
Uh, uh, Back in my day, this is a small one, but back in my day, we had to stand up and go to the TV to turn the console on.
Oh, and you had to set the TV to like channel 3 or 4
Yeah, it had
because
to be
there
channel
wasn't
3.
like an AV input or like HDMI.
And you had to sit. You couldn't. Sometimes you couldn't sit on the couch because the cord didn't go very far.
Yep,
That
that's true.
that's the worst part about the Super Nintendo Mini, and like the stupidest reason why I don't play it is because I have to sit on the floor. And I'm an old
Oh.
person now. My back hurts.
It hadn't occurred to me until very recently how short the cord is on the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
Like on the PlayStation 2 controller and the Xbox controller, they're so long, but like on the GameCube, it's so short. I just want to play Wario World and sit on the couch, not on the floor, god damn it.
And we've talked about it before, but the Wavebird was like, oh my
That was
gosh, that
mind
changed
blowing.
everything.
You're telling me I could not even be in the house and I could play my GameCube.
I remember specifically setting the TV up by a window and going outside and playing through the window and being like, we're living in the future. I'm in the Matrix.
This is the future. I remember you're this I don't think that yeah, this isn't video game related, but you remember those it was another time where I thought like this truly is the future, but those like little juice box kind of MP3 player things. It
Like
was
just
called a
the
juice.
Oh, it was called a juice box. I remember having the off-brand. It was just here's an MP3 player. And look up juice box.
I
No,
forget.
I never had
They had
these.
like they had the little like cartridge type things you would pop into. It was basically like a Walkman, with a little tiny, I guess, cassette tape kind of. Pop it in, and yeah, I just looked up Juicebox player and I found it. But
Interesting. I remember
oh yeah,
McDonald's had the little ones where you could put in the tiny disc and it would play like 10 seconds of a song.
my God. Oh, and then um, do you remember the what are they called, the Digimon like Digivices,
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
where you could yeah, it was basically just like a little like I forget what you call it, like a little LCD screen, and you walk your Digimon and it trains up and you fight other stuff. But I remember you could like just shake it and it'd walk. You could
I
cheat it just by shaking it.
I have an embarrassing story to tell that I've never told anyone in my life.
Ooh, who
So,
better to share it with than our valuable
yeah,
listeners?
the listeners, this is a breaking story. So back when I was a kid, like elementary school kid, I loved Digimon and I wanted the Digi world to be real so bad. And like Digimon was where the kids in the real world got transported to the Digi world. And I remember walking home from the bus stop to my house and I had like a ringing in my ear and I thought I was like that's the high pitch sound from when they get transported. So the whole walk home,
Oh
I was like
hell yeah!
I was trying to focus on it really hard and just being like, "Come on, come on."
Oh my God, that's so weird because yeah, in elementary school, me and what few friends I had would just in the playground we'd pretend we were Digimon, and I loved Rare Gururumon. I'd be like Rare Gururumon smash, and I'd jump off of the jungle gym or whatever and do like a little anime pose, and it was so sweet.
I'm just imagining what the teachers were thinking. Just, I mean, I'm sure kids are just as weird now, but
Oh God, yeah.
uh,
Uh, our oldest really loves Naruto, so he'll do the Naruto run through Walmart,
beautiful,
and he'll make little shurikens out of paper and just throw them all over the house.
beautiful.
Oh yeah. And I don't think I have anything else.
Well,
But
I have one more, and I know it's going to be something you can talk about.
okay, let's do it.
Back in my day, indie video games weren't a thing.
Ooh, that that's so weird to think about.
Yeah, right. That was the last thing I added to the list, and I was like, yeah, there weren't indie games. There was just games from EA and 2K, and you had to have a publisher to release a game.
It's true. And if your game tanked, you know that little tiny little baby studio would just get the
Yeah,
cord
gone.
pulled. That that's so wild because I feel like most of what I play nowadays is indie games.
Yeah, I think that's something that gets taken for granted is like today anyone can make a video game. Like anyone listening, anyone in the world can go to their PC and make a video game.
Mhm.
And back in the day that was couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah,
I don't know how you would go about you'd have to work for a studio and make whatever they told you to.
it's still it still baffles me, just absolutely scrambles my brains whenever I try to think of like how the fuck did they get a game? This is for the N60, or I guess any cartridge-based thing. How the fuck do they get the game on there? Do they program it and then pop it into a chip that's on the board of the cartridge? I don't know.
No idea. No idea. Yeah,
If I think about it too much, I'm gonna melt.
yeah, is that's also true. It's just being like I've got this disc that I put into the PlayStation and a laser reads it and puts it onto my screen and I hit buttons that make things happen. And this has been something that's been controlling my life for 20 plus years.
This is also something I think about a lot at 3 a.m., which is when I have a lot of my best thoughts. Like that's when I came up with the ad was at 3 a.m. I woke up to take a pee. I was like, grub shapes. But no. So record players, how the fuck do those little grooves in a vinyl record make the music? I don't.
there's there's no
What?
technology in a record player either. It's just the needle.
It's
It's a little
it's just a
needle.
it's just a disc of vinyl. If it even is vinyl, how do they do it?
No idea. Or the 3DS, I understand. Like they can say like, oh, it displays a different image to each eye, which causes a 3D thing. And then I outwardly, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Inwardly, I'm like, that's no, that's science fiction.
It's like this is a really bad like 80s science fiction movie with really bad
Oh,
theremin.
memory,
Ooh.
memory. My
Yes?
my grandparents had some sort of dinosaur game for their PC, and it claimed to have 3D graphics. And back in the 90s, to get 3D graphics, you had to have the glasses with a red lens and a blue lens. And it was barely 3D, so everything you saw was red and blue. And
Oh.
that's how they gave a different image to each eye, because some of the images on the screen was red and some was blue, so it made it look 3D. And I don't even know how you would show a kid that these days, because they're going to see it and they're going to be like, I can't see anything. And I was like, no, this is 3D dinosaurs.
That's it's also remember back in I think it was the early 2010s when they were trying to make 3D TVs a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like one of my old roommates used to have one and he was like, "Dude, this is going to change the world forever. This is the future of gaming." Because there was like some ATV game where you could do local multiplayer on just one screen
Yeah.
because like one would be one player, the other 3D effect whatever bullshit would be the second
You would
player.
have the full
I was like that
screen.
is I was like that is kind of dope, but it's hard as fuck to see.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I was a PlayStation person back then, so I was like, yeah, this is the future. I played a 3D TV at GameStop, and I played MLB The Show. And would you believe that the ball traveling was not in 3D? The only thing 3D was the UI.
Fuck.
What's the point of that?
Wow, that it's the past is so weird.
Oh my gosh, 3D TVs, PlayStation 3. Your PlayStation 3 that you have in your closet can play 3D video games on 3D TVs.
Also, here's another one goofy one for you. I remember back in the day before, yeah, it was before smartphones, before you had movies at your fingertips or TV shows at your fingertips. Um, they had what movies you could play on your PSP, or they had like the Game Boy Advance movie things. I forget what they were called. Those special cartridges where you could watch like a TV show
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So crazy.
Um, Speaking of mobile phones, though, I think this is something that does not get talked about. So if you're a younger listener, this is going to blow your mind. But when smartphones first became a thing and the app stores first started coming out, they did not anticipate people to make games for them. They did not do anything in preparation for that. I remember a year or so in to the iPod phase, they actually had to add a game section of the App Store because there were so many games coming in. But that didn't exist right away. It was just apps. And
Oh yeah.
now we had things like it was toilet paper that you would unroll as fast as possible, or it looked like a
Oh.
beer and you could tilt it back and you drink it. It was the
Oh
coolest shit.
my
The
God.
coolest shit you could imagine.
Or the lighter app. You just like move your finger like you were trying to light a lighter, and it would light the lighter.
And lightsaber, you could tap the lightsaber and go.
Yeah, the
You could move around, and go
lightsaber.
zoom, zoom, and you're like, what the fuck?
A, a police siren, or whatever you call it, a text ticker. Those like text to scroll across the screen.
I will say,
What?
playing solitaire on an iPad or iPod with the scrolly dial thing was actually really a really good way to play it because you could just scroll across the cards.
Yeah, there was. I forget what generation iPod I had. It was one of the big old fat boys, but there was like a no, it was on my Zune actually. Sorry, there was like this like side-scrolling shoot 'em up game I had on my Zune. I forget
Really?
what it was called, but it was awesome. Also, yeah, kids back in the day, Microsoft had an MP3 player called the
Yeah,
Zune.
yeah.
It crashed and burned pretty hard against the iPod.
There was Windows phones as well, and I had a Windows phone, and I actually really liked it. But it's crazy that Microsoft, like giant Microsoft, made bad devices.
Hey, don't call the Zune bad. The Zune was awesome.
Okay, failed devices that failed commercially.
There
Because,
you
like I said, the Windows
go.
phone, I liked the Windows phone a lot too. It
The
had
one,
Siri before Siri, or at the same time but better. It had Cortana, and it did like really cool things.
it's oh man. Now that you mentioned the Windows Phone, I'm thinking of Windows 8, and I don't know how anybody ever did anything on Windows 8. Ew.
Oh, I memory unlocked.
Ugh.
We had a old, very, 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 very old PC, and it had Sim City. And when you would save your game, I don't understand how this worked, but when you saved your game, it would give you the title of a city and a code. And then when you would load the game back up, because you couldn't save games back then, that's how old it was. There were no save games. When you would load the
Oh, yep.
game back up, you would have to look in the manual, find the city, and match it with the code, and then type it in, and it would somehow bring
Ew.
up your game that you had.
The same goes for like the original Metroid and a few other games on the NES as well. You didn't save games, you just had just had the code that it gave you.
Yeah, you'd have to write down like this 12-digit long code. Man, I forgot about that. And
That
then it somehow
sucks.
brought up your game. I don't know how.
I'm never gonna understand any of this. I'm still trying to think of how the goddamn hell they programmed a game onto a cartridge for the N64. Huh.
No, no, video games don't make sense. But I did want to mention one last thing about indie games.
Sure.
Was they didn't really exist until the Xbox 360 had the Xbox Arcade, and then
Oh
they were
yeah,
like, that's when they were like, hey, if you make a game, we'll help you put it on the Xbox, and
that's right. Yeah.
that's where it all started. And then I remember in college, Steam, the you know it today is the marketplace that has literally everything you could possibly imagine, but back in the day, Steam had to approve every game that went onto the system or onto the platform. And eventually they just became overwhelmed with
Yep.
normal people making games. So they started a system called the Steam Greenlight system where they would post like a dozen or so games and then people would vote on which ones they wanted to be brought to Steam so that they instead of Steam deciding what games would be on Steam, the people would get to decide. And if you didn't get enough votes, your game wouldn't be allowed to be on Steam.
Oh man.
And
Yeah.
then
That,
after a couple of years, that system wasn't working, so they just opened the floodgates and were like, whatever you want to publish, put it on there.
oh, and that's why there's so many stinking piles of shit on Steam.
Yep. People complain about it all the time, but they tried an alternative and it didn't work. Like that's one thing people don't like about the Epic Game Store is they are very strict about what games they allow, but it's either that or Steam. Like you can't have a middle ground.
That's true. Yeah, because before Steam, there really wasn't this unified, unified electronic store on PCs. Really, it was
No.
just because kids back in the day, you pretty much had to have a disc to install a game on your PC and play a game on your PC.
Yeah.
There was, I believe, very few games that you could just go to a website and get. Like I know RuneScape, you played it through their launcher thing, and but yeah, most games you had to have a big old box of discs for.
Yeah, I had a bunch of discs, piles of boxes of discs, and now I've had my Series X for a year, and I have one disc.
I have so many discs and cartridges and other bullshit in my game room that I need to go through and see what the hell.
Yeah, but I think that's it. I think that's everything from the past.
That is, and yeah, I mean, if there's anything else that we didn't think of somehow something we missed, feel free.
I would even love to know if you're a younger person. Tell us what your back in the day was. It's going to make us feel old, but I just love seeing that perspective. Like hearing my coworker be like, I grew up with the DS and it was so cool. Just hearing that was like mind rattling for me, but it just gave them a different perspective on video games.
That's true. Yeah, they're back in the day, so much different from our back in the day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's also people older than us whose
Yeah.
back in the day is even wilder.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's all of them.
Reach out to us on Twitter, on Super Pod Saga on Twitter. We have an email address, superpodsaga@gmail.com. We have a Instagram. It's guess what, Super Pod Saga.
Yep. Facebook. Guess what? Also Super Pod Saga. What? The log. Maybe it's Aaron and Tommy Super Pod Saga. I'll take a look.
Well, regardless, we got that.
Oh, we got TikTok.
Yeah, which as soon as the temperatures go down, I'm going to be making more. It's too hot in my house.
I'm gonna try to come up with something for it. Yeah, the two videos seem to be doing pretty well though.
Heck yeah. And we're gonna do a YouTube eventually as well. So look forward to YouTube.
That is true.
Oh, so you get to pick the topic for the next one.
Yes, sir. And I thought long and hard about it. We should talk about Sega a little bit.
Oh boy, that's gonna be a tough one for me, but I'll do it.
Really? I have another one in the barrel too.
No, we gotta do it. I picked the Nintendo Wii for the first episode, and you didn't even own one, and we made it work, and it's our most listened to episode.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, it can be anything Sega. They did a lot of weird and questionable shit, but it'll make for a good episode.
Okay, look forward to that, listeners. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.